Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Lakey. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the coordinator for Vibrant Future Coalition in North Clackamas. I work with students like you all year long on educating youth about substance use prevention, which means abstaining from the use of drugs and alcohol, as well as teaching about strategies to reduce your risk of harm if you do choose to engage in using substances. While I normally teach in the classroom throughout the year, this presentation is in the form of a webinar, and I hope that you still find it useful while you are at home in quarantine and find that some of the strategies could be of use to help you stay safe and cope with stress during this difficult time. First, we're going to brainstorm why teens use drugs. So you can pause this slide while you brainstorm on a piece of paper or maybe out loud why you think some teens choose to use drugs and alcohol. If you've unpaused, we can start with maybe teens use it because they're curious about what it tastes like or what it feels like. Maybe they've seen other people use it and they're wondering what those people are experiencing. Some people use it to feel better, so maybe they feel stressed or they feel like they're grieving and they want to use substances to distract or avoid these feelings. Some people use substances to fit in, so maybe their friends or family members are using it and they don't want to feel like a black sheep in the group, and so they use substances so that they can feel like they're part of the in-group. Some people use substances like drugs and alcohol to improve performance. Maybe they'll use prescription drugs like Adderall in order to be able to feel like they can focus better. Or some people use substances like cocaine in order to stay awake for longer, to be able to work or perform longer. And some people use substances just for fun because they like the way they feel when they're using it, and it's just a really good time for them. Maybe they use it at parties or social events. And so those are some of the reasons teens use drugs. If you think of any more, that's great. But now we're going to move on to another slide. So during the crisis like the one we're facing during the coronavirus global pandemic, many people are facing unprecedented levels of stress. Some people, including teens, choose to use drugs and alcohol as a way to cope with their feelings of isolation, boredom, frustration, grief, and stress. When we talk about self-medication, it involves when someone starts using alcohol or other drugs to repeatedly deal with stress, anxiety, or other mental health issues. So these stressors can be brought on by something like coronavirus. Maybe you're worried about leaving your house, or maybe you are really stressed out about the fact that you have to spend all day with your family, or maybe you're worried about your grades and your academic performance. So some people use drugs and alcohol to self-medicate to avoid or distract from their problems or their stressors. What are some risks involved for teens who are self-medicating with alcohol or other drugs? You can brainstorm on the worksheet and pause this video to write at least 2 reasons why you think teens might be at risk if they choose to self-medicate. If you've unpaused the video, we'll talk about some of the reasons. So first off, teens who use substances are likelier to make risky, impulsive, or possibly dangerous decisions because drugs impact the decision-making part of the brain. Second, these teens are at greater risk of becoming addicted to substances, which can cause short and long-term harm to their brains, bodies, and relationships. Lastly, teens who self-medicate with substances aren't taking action to resolve the problems that cause them stress in the first place. Eventually, when you sober up, the problems you face are going to be just as bad as before, or maybe worse. There's a big difference between healthy distractions, like exercise or talking with friends, and unhealthy avoidance, like using substances to forget about your problems. There's a lot of stigma associated with people who use drugs. And this can cause people to use more of a drug or feel shame and not get help for using those drugs. Stigma is defined as a mark of disgrace or shame associated with a person or a group of people. Stigmas can lead to people being stereotyped and discriminated against. This can cause people to not be able to find help when they're seeking it, and it causes people to be stereotyped as alcoholics or druggies or addicts, and a lot of harmful language like that. So we're going to talk about, or we're going to brainstorm some reasons that stigma can affect people who use drugs, or it can affect your decision to use drugs. So answer the following questions on your worksheet. Give at least 2 examples for each question. The first question is, what are some of the negative views society has about people who use drugs? So maybe you think about friends or family members who may be involved with substances, or the way that society stereotypes people who use drugs and what kind of people they might be. 2, why might teens turn to alcohol and drugs to cope with stress rather than healthier coping mechanisms such as exercise or finding a new healthy hobby? The third question is, what advice would you give to a friend or classmate who is using drugs to self-medicate for stress? These could be ways that you suggest to them to get involved with healthier coping mechanisms or ways that they can seek help or resources for their addiction. You can pause this video while you answer those questions. Now we're going to talk about some alternatives to self-medication. I'm wondering if you can think of some ways that teens can manage stress without using alcohol and other drugs. You may have written down some of these ideas with earlier questions. The first one is exercise. We know that exercise can cause endorphins and attack the same brain receptors that substances do, causing a release in dopamine and serotonin, which are the happy feelings that you may get when you exercise. Healthy eating is really important to maintain healthy vitamin levels in your body, as well as getting the benefits of eating enough food and food often. Getting enough sleep is really crucial for avoiding stress and anxiety. Getting at least 7 to 9 hours per night is really important for having a healthy mindset and reducing stress. Doing something enjoyable, like hanging out with friends or maybe just watching a good TV show, that can be a way that teens can manage stress. Another one is talking with friends or family. Sometimes when you're anxious and you have thoughts swirling around in your head, you may want to reach out to someone to release those thoughts and talk through your problems. Finding a hobby or creative outlet can be a really great way to manage stress. Thinking about drawing or something else that's artistic, as well as maybe gardening or something outdoors. A lot of people find that when they are doing their hobby, it's kind of meditative for them and it can help manage stress. Creating a balanced schedule can be really important, especially during a time like this when we're in quarantine and we don't have very much structure in our lives. So maybe scheduling your meals for 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 6 p.m., or maybe just scheduling some time that you're going to exercise every day at 4 p.m. can be really important for helping create some structure in your life that will make you feel accomplished. And talking with a mental health professional is a fantastic way to help manage stress because they talk with many people and have lots of experience in helping people find ways to reduce their anxiety or maybe depression, and that can be really critical during a time like this. At the end, I will provide some resources so you can reach out to a mental health professional if you need to. Next, we're going to talk about harm reduction. Harm reduction is a set of strategies that encourages someone to make the safest and healthiest choices they can based on the circumstances. We practice harm reduction every day in many aspects of our lives. One has to do with eating. So while there's lots of options for food, we could eat chips and ice cream all day long if we really wanted to, but often people choose to eat fruits and vegetables and whole grains so that they feel good and that they can reduce the amount of harm that they have on their body, even if they choose to eat chips and ice cream sometimes. People who play dangerous sports like football or hockey, where you can get lots of concussions, choose to wear helmets so that they can protect themselves but still engage in a fun and rewarding sport. Driving and being in a car is also inherently very dangerous, but people choose to be safer, and it's also required by law to wear a seatbelt so that you can keep yourself safe and reduce your likelihood of harm despite being in a vehicle that has a high risk of harm. So harm reduction can also relate to using substances like drugs and alcohol. Abstinence is the for sure way to reduce your risk and actually have no risk of harm from drugs and alcohol. We really encourage every teen and every adult to be abstinent, as in not use substances, and find other healthier coping mechanisms like exercise or art in order to reduce their stress. However, some people find themselves in situations where using substances may be safer than another option. So people who may be at risk of violence, people who are being threatened by others, or people who are already addicted and they don't have the resources to go through a safe withdrawal. So there are some strategies that we can use to help stay safe if you are using substances and you have no choice for abstinence at the moment. Developing drug knowledge is crucial, so including info about dose and dosage so that you make sure that you don't take too much of something if you're not familiar with a drug. Checking the substance is really important, so you can use Google as a tool for this. What is the color of the substance, the shape, the size, or the container that it's supposed to be in, so you can check if a drug that you're being given is regulated or safe, or even the drug that someone says it is. So this is really important for prescription drugs that come in pill forms. Sometimes you'll be given a pill that someone says maybe is ecstasy, but when you look at it more closely, you realize that that's not typically what ecstasy looks like, and it's actually a different drug. And so that's really important for being in control of your environment and knowing how your body might react to this drug. It's very important not to mix substances because the outcomes of mixing substances, for example, alcohol and weed, or another example could be an upper and a downer, like an opioid and something like cocaine. Mixing substances like that can have very unpredictable outcomes and can often be fatal, or they can cause irreparable harm to your brain. Moderation is key if you find yourself in a situation where you are choosing to use substances, or maybe you have no choice because of the threat of harm. So starting low, meaning low dosage, or maybe just a very low amount of alcohol, for example, going really slow, taking small sips, taking very few sips, for example, and having someone safe around you who can watch out for you while you're engaging in this use. Doing it less often. So for example, if you have friends who use substances every day or every few days, you could start out by using it once a week or once every couple of weeks so that you reduce your chance of addiction. Set and setting are very important as well. So you check your mood and your setting. Are you in a place that's, dark and loud? That can impact how your body takes in the drug and how you react to the drug. Are you calm and in control, or are you feeling angry or nervous, or maybe you're feeling pressured, or you're feeling really energetic? The way that you are feeling emotionally can affect to a great degree how your body reacts to a substance. Finally, whether you're using the drug yourself or you have a friend or family member using a drug, it's critical to know the signs of overdose. The signs of overdose include blue lips, trouble breathing, slurred speech, or snoring or sleeping after using substances, because that can indicate that the person is experiencing blockage in their airway. So have your phone on hand always so that you can call 911 if you need to, and have naloxone on hand. Naloxone is a life-saving antidote to opioid overdose that is free at pharmacies and some local health organizations, including us here at Vibrant Future Coalition. Naloxone, or Narcan, as indicated in the picture, has no harmful side effects for a person who is not overdosing or for a person who is not using opioids. It will just reverse the overdose of someone who is overdosing. So it has no other side effects whatsoever and is extremely safe and easy to use. Some other resources include talking to a trusted source like a family member, a friend, a teacher, a doctor, or a counselor. Doctors and counselors are available via telehealth these days because many clinics are closed due to the coronavirus, and many insurance plans, including OHP, cover telehealth. There are also free resources to talk to people like the Oregon Youth Line, where you can talk to other teen volunteers who are very knowledgeable about dealing with stress and who can help talk you through some difficult moments or some decisions you're trying to make. And it is also a very good resource for people who might be experiencing suicidal thoughts. But of course, if you or someone you know is in risk of harming themselves, always call 911. Some information that you can find online about drugs and substances include teens.drugabuse.gov, where you can get helpful information on what drugs look like, the dosage, where they come from, as well as ways they impact your brain and body. You can also call the Quit line or the helpline or the non-emergency helpline, which is 211, where you'll find local resources. That's the end of this presentation. I hope you found it useful, and I hope that you can use some of these strategies to help deal with stress during these times. I'll see you again once we're back in school, and have a great summer. Thank you.